Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and this is going to be a channel update video. We're going to do a quick update in regards to with what's going on with everything that's going on and such, and we're in for a long one with in terms of explanations and everything, and this footage of Rumble should give you something nice to watch while I do all the talking and blargy blarg. Hopefully I won't be distracted by my own gameplay. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. So the last 12 games I did on the channel were we my thoughts on them really is just I've had some ups and downs with it. That's all I could say. So let's start with Pac-Man World 3, which was the first of them. Pac-Man World 3 was it was interesting to say at least because of how it it was really a case of where I thought I was going to be in for something special with it, and I kind of was. I really kind of was overall, but I just wasn't, it just wasn't too. I, what am I even trying to say at this point? Basically, what I want to say is Pac Man World 3 was just not what I thought it would be. Well, no, in a good way. I almost meant that in a bad way, but I mean in a good way. Because when I was doing it, I was surprised to see like the kind of reception it was getting from a lot of you. Like some of you really seem to have enjoyed it, and I was wondering, does it have to do with nostalgia for it, despite it not really being the best of games? And I'm guessing that is the case. Like even bad games can garner nostalgia, but I think one of my favorite things I liked doing with Pac-Man World 3 was talking about in regards to the development with it, and when I brought up Don Bluth's brief involvement with the game. Like it wasn't much, but it was incredible though that he was able to do some work on the game, or at least an early version of it, before they decided otherwise, that yeah, maybe it's best that we do our own thing. It was also just a case of great what ifs because of how the game was initially. It had bigger ambitions. The game had bigger ambitions because of how there was a lot to have gone on it. Anywhere from anywhere basically from story to maybe gameplay really. In the end, it was still an okay game for what it was worth. It just was a little bit too ambitious for its own good, but I still had my fun with it. It was a good platformer to me. I loved a lot of the things in it. Pac-Man speaking was one of the big things I liked about it because having him be silent for the most part, it didn't like feel pretty like I'm not saying I don't hate the silent protagonist, trope. I would rather prefer if my protagonists do talk because sometimes you can't always convey it. And I do like how that Pac-Man was given a bit of a melee option because having the ability to just jump on or roll into your enemies, it just didn't seem pretty profitable. Well, profitable is not the word I'd use, but you know what I'm trying to say. I feel like he needed more options to defend himself with. And overall, the story could have just been better, but it was interesting to say at least. Moving on, we have Munch's Odyssey. Munch was really just a case of where the Oddworld team didn't know exactly what they were getting themselves into because part of it had to do with the fact that they originally wanted it on the PS2 because they didn't want to change brands or anything. They wanted to stay loyal to PlayStation, but they they just didn't have like, the power for it. They had no idea like, what they were doing with the PS2 technology, and Lord Lanning himself even believed that the PS2 was just simply not powerful enough to convey what he envisioned for the game, which is a little sad when you think about it because early on the PS2 was decently powerful, but the fact that it just wasn't powerful enough to convey what he wanted, that's just it's it's a history thing with a lot of consoles. But overall, I still liked the game for what it was. Like able to play between Abe and Munch was a great thing because it did offer like a sense of like if you wanted to, you could have made a co-op out of it. Like you could have legit just made a co-op out of that game by, having player 2 be Munch. Of course, you didn't have to like, switch between the two. It still could have worked just fine if it was just, you know, one player is Abe and the other's Munch, but eh, it's fine. The story though is one of the aspects that I wish that they could have had time to work with because the problem with that was that the story was basically it was meant to be bigger and more ambitious, but they were just running out of time. They didn't know what they could do with the PS2 hardware, and even with the Xbox hardware, they had no idea what they could have done. So it really is just a case of what could have been. But I did learn some interesting things from it, thankfully, because at the time when I was getting the some of the images and artwork that I would have used in the finale, it was all that art was from like the 20 years of art of Oddworld art, and it was very interesting to see. It was just very interesting to see all that and learn about some things that I never knew about the game. And getting the angelic Quarma, which I think was one of the nice things, because it was my intention to get that, but I never thought I would. And being able to get it is what made it so great. Now I am getting distracted by my gameplay here. Anyway, yeah, Munch's Odyssey though, I did like it. It was weird doing it because at the time, Oddworld Soulstorm was out and about at the time, so it did make for a slight awkward transition of things because, I end up doing games roughly like on my own time. So whenever there are times where it's like, oh, I had no idea that this was coming out at the time and all that, I legit I just try to make light of it as best as I can. But yeah, Munch's Odyssey, good game. Could have been better. I kind of hope we'll see Munch again in the next Oddworld game. I know Lanning said when Soulstorm was being finished, he did say how there may or may not be something regarding Munch in a future Oddworld game, whatever they have planned next, and I just hope that does mean we'll get to see him again. Maybe not exactly a remake of, Munch's Odyssey, but just simply overall, getting to see Munch again because he is a good character in many ways. Next is Rayman 3, and boy, Rayman is on a roll this year. If any of you have Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, people are going nuts over the Rayman DLC, and it's very understandable on why. But but it's Rayman 3 was a fun game for me to do. I know the game pretty well by heart, and it was not only great to go through the game, but it was also great to like get all the little secrets and such because I've never was able to do that, like find all the little hidden secret areas to get all the bonus stuff. I've gotten all the mini games before, but just getting all of like the little hidden locations where you can find more of the jewels to get points and whatever. Which then, again, I had fun with the game. It was great to go through it. It does make me regret that I never, because out of the Rayman trilogy, I'm a little more disappointed of doing Rayman 2, but that was because I did the PS1 version, and because I never did the actual proper definitive version that people are more familiar with, you know, I maybe someday I might go back to Rayman 2 and do well, not exactly do, but just like, I will try to maybe do one of the definitive versions, like probably Rayman Revolution. That's probably the only one I'd do. But yeah, Rayman, you're on a good roll. The DLC, the final DLC of Sparks of Hope, it's given people hope that we will get a new Rayman down the line. I certainly do. I certainly hope so. I miss classic Rayman game, 3D Rayman game that is. Like I don't mind the 2D ones like Origins and Legends, but I really would love to go back to the 3D environment is all. Next is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Brotherhood was a bit of an odd spot for me because I wasn't too sure how many people would take to it. Like, I feel like not a lot of people care about me doing the Assassin's Creed games in general, but I try to make the best of it. I try to do like whatever I can with it and, find the fun and showing stuff off, fun things off with it and all that. Um, because of how like with the recent Assassin's Creed entries, because I feel like these days I mean, I don't know the exact how people feel about, Valhalla or Mirage and whatever the future ones are, but I really want to go back to like the old style of the games. I really just want to go back to like exploring, exploring one of the cities and just, doing stuff. Not even like not even just, you know, with this because I know from seeing Valhalla and everything, all this getting XP stuff or it's not classic. I liked it better when all I had to do was just simply go about and, you know, find and just simply find things, do missions, get a good story out of it, not just do this whole, all this quest stuff to get better weapons and whatever. Still, Brotherhood was a bit fun. I'm quite surprised to see how it turned out. I still think it was pretty good on my part. One of the things I liked was just how I was able to do the DLC with it because around the time when I was getting to do the DLC, that was roughly the time Sony was going to they were planning about doing getting rid of the PSN on PS3 and whatnot. But I'm like, well, I better get to work on that and fast, and that's when I bought it. But then that's when they're like, oh no, we'll keep the PSN open for a little longer. I'm like, oh okay, that's fine, fine by me. So overall, Brotherhood to me was a fun game. It did expand greatly on some of the mechanics with 2. One of the things I liked about Brotherhood the most, though, was the apprenticeship thing, where you can find different civilians on the streets and all, and you can like recruit them to the assassin's cause. And I liked that because having them around really like it made the game a little easier, but at the same time, it well, that's part of it is that it did make the game a little easier. It would not only make the game a little easier, but it it also helped you get extra money and materials if you were trying to like if you were trying to, get stuff done. Anyway, quick drink of water here. That's better. Anyway, um and the story in Brotherhood was a little good, to be honest, because it does like it goes over like a lot of things. Like one of the things I know it goes over is like the consequences of the fact that Ezio did not kill Borgia like he was supposed to. Like all he had to do was kill Rodrigo, but he never did. He didn't go with it, and the fact that he did not go through with it, I mean, while nice on his part in terms of development, the whole, killing you won't bring my family back, it did had some serious repercussions, and that is that all it did, if anything, was at least for Borgia's, you know, what was it, his son? Cesare, it just simply meant that, oh, now we have a means to like, to keep going and all that. We just simply have a means to an end. But it was still, historically interesting though, because I did learn some things about it, like the fact that a lot of that stuff was true, like how, basically, like how, Cesare was more focused on wanting to like be a fighter and just basically get all that out and try to like expand on like the stuff regarding with Italy and such. Which then brings the next part of like how which brings me to the next point of like how again with the DLC. Sorry, I'm just getting so engrossed in my gameplay. I feel like I could have been better with it, but I was just trying to level up Ripper if anything. By the way, I recorded this before the Badge Bonanza event because I didn't want I wanted that to be its own thing. Anyway, Brotherhood though was a good game. I look forward to doing the next few Assassins games before such. Next would be Crash Twinsanity. This was a game that I knew a lot of fans would be looking forward to because I knew lots of people love Twinsanity. The fan base, we all love Twinsanity. We all want Twinsanity to be remastered, remade, or something, or include all the famous cut content. And I even went over that stuff. But before I get to that part, though, my thoughts on Twinsanity. I had fun with Twinsanity. It was fun to go through another romp with Crash games. Again, though, I don't want the channel to be specialized in it, but it's slowly turning into that. But I don't want to be known as, oh, he's the guy that does Crash Bandicoot games. Like, no, I want to be known as the guy who does like a lot of iconic games and franchises. I don't want to just be known for doing Crash Bandicoot. Like, yeah, I got the username, but I don't want that to be like my signature. I just want people to know that I do just about anything. Ugh, excuse me. So, but Twinsanity was fun. I didn't really have too much trouble with it compared to some of the others, but one thing I will say is around that time, I was slowly like becoming dissatisfied with my job. I should say at the time when I was doing Pac-Man World 3, I did switch jobs around the time, but I switched jobs around the time, and I just was not liking what I was getting myself into in terms with that job. I was just becoming very dissatisfied with what they were putting me into with it. It was really like interfering with what I wanted to do with channel. So, but Twin Sanity, it was a fun time. The fact that I was able to 100% it, like I've 100% in Twin Sanity before, but it just felt extra fun doing it and showing it off is all, and just getting a good laugh out of the humor. Like that was the big one, is just getting a good laugh out of the humor. It to me, Twin Sanity is the most comedic of the Crash games, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me on that. And it was still just a fun time is all. Not only that, I had extra fun with the whole like going over a lot of the cut content and stuff. I feel though I could have done better with that, but when a game is infamous for having its cut content, it's best to just simply, go to the cutting room floor website. There you could see for yourself. You could see that for yourself and just know that, whenever there's content to be had, the cutting room floor is the place to go. You want to see or hear certain niceties with the content? Like I said, just cutting room floor. It's where you got to go. Let's see. I was getting distracted again by gameplay, even though we've looped back to my first match. Yeah, just fun time it was with Twin Sanity. Look forward to doing whenever the next Crash game will be. Next would be Spyro: A Hero's Tale. I've commented that I consider A Hero's Tale like the Twin Sanity, like the Crash Twin Sanity of Spyro, but not quite. Like at the time when I did it, it didn't really have like a lot of, info to offer in regards to that, but it did have some interesting things that I could still like look at and work with. And A Hero's Tale was fun. It was probably like one of my more um I want to say it was one of my more like easygoing Spyro playthroughs. I didn't have too much trouble with it. There wasn't really anything to give me any crap about, and really it was a fun time to go through all that and learn about all the things, and once again 100%ing it, even though you don't really get much of a reward of 100%ing it, but it's still there. The nicety the niceties are there. Then there's what else was there before I move on to the next one? There was also the fact that when I did the game, and by extension with Twin Sanity, when I first did Twin Sanity, I first made note saying like, at the time when I did Wrath of Cortex, it was considered the fourth game, even though at the time, when I did Wrath of Cortex, the fourth game, It's About Time, was not out yet. And it wasn't even in development, I think, at the time, or at least its existence, it wasn't there basically. But by the time I did Twin Sanity, It's About Time was out, and I'm like, well, I got to slightly rectify that. And I had to do the same with Spyro immediately, saying that as of now, as I do Spyro: A Hero's Tale, it's the fifth game to serving as a sequel to Enter the Dragonfly, but you know, we'll get our proper Spyro 4 possibly. I sure hope so. I don't hate Enter the Dragonfly. I've made my peace with it, but it's just clear that it's just not what people wanted out of it, but I still love it for what it is, for what it tried to be. Like it has a great soundtrack. That's probably one of the best redeeming points I have for it is it has a wonderful soundtrack. Stuart Copeland was definitely like he was giving it his all with that one. Which speaking of, thanks to it being Spyro's 25th anniversary, they finally released the Reignited soundtrack, even though it's not too special. There's nothing too special about it. Like the only thing I could say about it that it's just basically the Spyro soundtrack, the Reignited version. Like one of the things I have my gripe with it already is it doesn't include everything in it. Like you can get both the original soundtrack and the Reignited one on, Spotify and Apple and whatnot, but it doesn't have everything. Well, the Spotify version at least does not have everything. I'd assume the Apple version has everything. But yeah, A Hero's Tale, it was fun, it was great. It was one of my not very stressful it wasn't very stressful to go through, thankfully. Then we go to Uncharted 1, which was a bit of a odd case of a game to do because well, number one thing I will make note of with Uncharted 1 right away was that at the time when I did it, the movie of Uncharted 1 had recently come out at the time and it just felt like a very odd awkward timing. I had completely forgotten that I'd completely forgotten that Uncharted 1 was coming out at the time. So I wasn't doing it for like promotional reasons or anything. It was literally just a case of, oh, I completely forgot that the movie was coming out at this time. So it just led to that sort of awkwardness. That said though, it was still okay for the most part. Like I didn't have too much well, okay. I had my troubles with it. I definitely had a little bit of struggling with it, but it wasn't my fault. Even with all the practice I put in, it was you're still going to run into trouble here and there. I think one of my favorite things I loved when I did Uncharted though was when I what was it? When I just got to show off all like the little things, the little stuff you can unlock. It was really fun to show all that off cuz just because of how like it was just fun to see it and knowing what you can do with all that funny goofy stuff. Not to mention when I talked about the game's development, that was another thing I liked about it. Um Other than that, yeah, I think that's all I have to share in regards to how I felt about Uncharted 1. Like overall, I still think it was an okay run, but I could have been better with it is all. I really could have been better with it, but you can't be the best at everything. The next would be Resistance: Fall of Man. This was an interesting one to me because when I was doing the game at the time, I honestly thought it was gonna be like one of those under the radar sort of things, cause I thought my Uncharted Let's Play would get, like, a lot of attention, but no, people apparently really liked my Resistance Let's Play, and it was just very, very, like, surprising to me, cause 'cause I'm like, "People actually still care about this?" I thought, everyone was more, like, into wanting to see Uncharted or stuff like that. But no, everyone wanted Resistance. Everyone loved my Resistance Let's Play, and it was just amazing on the kind of reception it got because again, I was just flabbergasted by that. I will say though, it was an unforgiving experience because of how rough the game was on me, but it was still a fun time to do. I always try to find the fun in everything, even if it's a stressful situation or game. Then why is that repeating twice? Oh well. Um Other than that, yeah, as I was trying to say, it was despite how stressful it was, I still tried to make a good time out of it. I did like how it was around the time when I was doing the game. I was also roughly like I had this point had been fed up with my current job with how they were doing with me. Like I just did not like what they were doing with me. They were definitely just I don't want to say they were not treating me fairly, but I just did not like how things were going at my work is all I could say. Like I just did not like how basically I've been made to work so much on weekends where it's like can I not get a moment of peace of mind or in this case not just peace of mind but being able to basically function, not just function, but let alone just get some breathing room because I really, really wanted to keep going with the channel. I was almost, I was getting closer and closer to basically getting to do, ready to do, we were getting closer and closer with the 12 games. I wanted that be over with. I was not wanting anything to stop me from finishing. Man, those people, not my work, but with the game here, I'm just like, man, those players so stubbornly persistent. Anyway, um, still, it was fun to learn a few things about Resistance One, and especially the fact that I kept saying how like I feel like Insomniac should still like show that they care about this game and not like I just feel like Insomniac has not been showing a lot of care or attention for this game. Not only that, but just how I just felt again that out of all the franchises, Insomniac would rather just I don't want to say sweep this under the rug, but they just seem to be a bit indifferent to it. And I'm just thinking like, do you not care that much about your own legacy? I mean, I know like most studios these days don't seem to care much in regards to their legacy, but come on. At least show a little bit of like I care about my legacy. So after Resistance, we went to Infamous 1. This was yet another game that I was like, "Oh yes, this was a game that I was looking forward to doing." It was very great to go through. It was also a little stress-free. I mean, I had some trouble on some missions, but overall, I still had a rather relatively peaceful time with the game for the most part. One of the things I liked when I was doing the game was again going over some of the game's development and uh also the digital comic was one of them. Like digital comics, I've talked about this before, but I like it whenever I get to read the digital comics from games on my channel because of how like it brings like a sense of it's just basically a case of where I get to again, read, put on a voice acting because I would love to be a voice actor if I could, but I can't. Mostly because I can't talk for too long without being out of breath. And then there's what else was about it? I mean, it just felt fun doing a game like Infamous is all. That's all I can say. Also, around that time, I think by then I had finally switched jobs, so I was able to be on a schedule that I could work with and be happy and still be able to balance and juggle everything I need to. So, yeah, I want to just Infamous was a nice stress relief for that after going through everything else I had to go through with everything else. And then would come their sequels, Uncharted 2, Resistance 2, and Infamous 2. We'll start with Uncharted 2. This is the game that, all Uncharted fans will go nuts about. People will say and contend that Uncharted 2 is the best of the Uncharted games. And in terms of story, I mean, it is rather impressive. And even in terms of, with even with in terms of gameplay and all, it is a rather, impressive game for what they went through. What with their what with the fact that they've been through with what they've learned in the first game, and in terms of that, it was oh wait, no, no, I don't blow up quite yet. Okay. I just like it if I can pass a bomb on in time. I mean, my idea with Ripper with the TNT, just go for the suicide attack if you have to. I would also say the same to others, but anyway, back to what's important with Uncharted. Yeah, it was I tried to do better with it basically. I not only was able to improve on with the not only was I able to improve, not only was I able to improve a little, but I made sure that that nothing would entirely go wrong. One of the things I liked with doing Uncharted 2, especially with the talking of development thing, was going over the multiplayer because Uncharted 2's multiplayer was one of my earliest like PS3 multiplayer experiences. I mean, at the time, I also was doing like Little Big Planet 2, but it was my first like people play maybe like Call of Duty online. Like at the time, you had like you had Modern Warfare 2, you had Black Ops, both 1 and 2. Nobody really cared about Modern Warfare's 3 multiplayer, but I had Uncharted 2 and by extension Uncharted 3, and those were real fun for me. That's where I made some of my PSN friends, which sadly I no longer speak with because, we've been living with our adult lives and I just don't get to talk or hang out with them. But it was a wonderful time for me. I basically had friends and we had fun times doing with 3 at least. I actually didn't get to hang out with them in 2, but when 3 rolled around, that's where our friendships really began. And to a lesser extent, it's what we did with in terms of like The Last of Us multiplayer and then shoot, what others did we do? We did Uncharted 3, we did The Last of Us. We briefly tried to do Uncharted 4. We never did Resistance. Um, we did some Little Big Planet. Oh, we also did like Warframe, a little bit of Warframe. I wasn't really the best at Warframe. We tried to do the Castle Crashers. We also did Dungeon Defenders. We had a lot of fun games that we worked well with. And it's thanks to them that I got certain games. With Dungeon Defenders at least. I already had Castle Crashers. Um, What was another one? I mean, I think those are the only few I can think of. I also think we also did a little bit of like oh, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. That was another one. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Then after that, after Uncharted 2 and with the fun I had with that, we did we then went on to Resistance 2, which even with the practice I put into that game was very unforgiving to me in terms of difficulty. But the only fun I had out of it was it had to do with basically just had to do with just the difficulty of getting through, but it was still an okay game. Okay. Okay is not the word I'd use for Resistance 2, just more like it was still a very wonderful game, and Samak really tried to give it their all in terms of like gameplay at least. Story, I mean, the story will remain one of the better of the few because of how sudden with the way it ends. So Resistance 2, that was another good game to do despite the difficulties I had. Infamous 2 was definitely a way to go out with a bang. Like everyone loved my Infamous 2 Let's Play. I have so many views on it that I'm just impressed that everyone loved Infamous 2 more so than maybe Infamous 1. I also had fun memories of playing Infamous 2 back then. Um, really, Infamous 2 was a great way to go out because of mostly just because of how, the game's ending, the at least if you get the good karma ending, but even then, even the evil karma ending can leave you on a note like that. And once again, going over the game's DLC and yeah, and that's just when after that I was under the rug, well, under the rug, not the word I want to use, nor under the radar. That's not exactly the words I want to use, but basically I was just simply, I was trying to practice, take some downtime, enjoy myself, enjoy life, mostly because I was also because of the new job I've been working on and I was really getting into a lot of things. And then the announcement of Crash Team Rumbled happened, and I've known for a while that they were trying to make a game under the name of Wampa League, and I'm like, that would be a great game to do on the channel, like a multiplayer kind of thing that would allow me to like, just do whatever I want and, you know, try to juggle it, find a way to increase views, but and I was trying to do side projects like some of you probably seen my Let's Play of Stray and then later the Monopoly videos, which I mean they were good attempts, but I just feel like they weren't exactly the right thing of what I was looking for. But I will say I will make another attempt with side projects, just in a different way. Um, so let's see. Anything else I need to bring up? Because I think I've said all I wanted to say in regards to yeah, in regards to the my thoughts of the games I did. I mean, if you want my thoughts on Rumble, because season one is now pretty much over, Rumble was, at the moment, Rumble is a rather fun game. It may be frustrating to some, or some people are more upset or frustrated that the game is only on console and not on PC. All I could say to that, and I'm pretty sure I said this before, but I doubt the game is coming to PC. Like, I don't see it happening, and I'm not saying that out of and I'm just saying that because I just don't see it happening. I'm sure the game would run splendidly on PC, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But if there's one thing I will say that I know will happen is we're gonna get a lot of interesting content and stuff for season 2. I know Ripto is gonna be playable. I've known because he was brought up in a data mine, and therefore, how can that not be the case? Like, what I know, what I never understand is why people, when data mines are shown, I don't get why people are in denial about them, like being like, if this data mine is true. And I'm like, what do you mean if it's true? If it's practically in the game's data, then that's all that matters. That is all you'll need to know, is that it's in the game's data. It's practically, there. The writing is there. Why do you have to be in denial about it? And so, but yeah, so Rumble, as I was trying to say, it is a rather fun game. It does offer a lot of it offers a lot to a fan, to the Crash fandom. I mean, I would want to say it offers almost as much like from Nitro Field. I mean, at the moment it doesn't, but it'll get added over time. Over time we'll get our things. We'll get our stuff together, and we'll get more interesting content later down the line. One of the big things I know I'll look forward to with the game is, ooh, what, like, it's not so much as a rumor, but it's more of a prediction on my part. But I will look forward to when more of the cast or playable characters are revealed, because I'm really curious to know like how they can keep going, because I talked about this in the Badge Bonanza video, where I remember here reading that at launch, at the earliest that they had this game made and such, at launch they wanted there to be like 12 or 16 characters. I think it was that they wanted 16 characters at launch and 12 maps. I'm pretty sure that's what it was supposed to be. I just don't quote me on that 100%, which leads to me wondering like who else they could add. Like, I mean, yeah, they could add, all the other characters from the series and such, but I feel like they're going to do a mix of that and more original characters like Cat Bat. I also have a feeling they might add, because if they're going to add Spyro characters, you might as well throw in some Skylanders too. Like, I have a feeling we're going to get at least 2 or 3 Skylander characters, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Would not be surprised at all. Spirit Guardian. Another thing I know that season 2 will do is fix up Engine a bit. I feel like Engine, he needs some polishing, is all I can say. He definitely needs some work in polishing. Apology, polishing. Like, try to maybe give a slight buff to his boombox. I'd like for it to have a little bit of survivability. Uh, I mean, I don't know what else I can say in regards to Rumble other than I know what to look forward to with the game. So I think I'll stop rambling now and get to the point that matters, is the actual update. What will we expect out of the channel and the schedule and all that other stuff. So let's start with one thing. Let me take a quick drink of water, that is. There we go. All right, so one thing I will say is this. Traditionally, and for the longest time, whenever I done games on the channel, I would always like, after I got through 12 games, I would then spend several months practicing for the next 12. Because of Rumble and a few other real life things that are like getting in my way, I'm having trouble like practicing. It's mostly a mix of like, adult life stuff and basically just trying to, I don't want to say be lazy, but even doing YouTube stuff can be boring and tiring. It's something I like doing, but I'm seeing it more as a hobby to do because whatever ambitions I had for it to be like an actual career, I don't see it happening, as sad as that sounds. But, if it could still happen, then it could still happen. But I'm at a point where I'm more content with just doing it for fun. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at with that though is that not all of the games I plan on doing I have practiced yet. There's still a few that I need to work on. That said, however, and that's why I'm saying that said, I do I do have a few of them completed though in terms of like practice. So, and because of the way Rumble is, I had an idea. And this is where the schedule's going to be. So I thought to myself, what if I can't if I can't do this in time, what if instead what I can do, what I can do instead is just basically, practice what I can, but then what I can do is that after I get done with a game, have a side project be the thing to take up space if I still need to practice with certain ones, which is what would lead to Rumble being one of those ideas. But now I no longer want to see Rumble as a side thing. Well, it still is technically. It still is a side thing I'm doing, but I'm now trying to incorporate it as part of the one of the big things I do. That is until they stop supporting the game. Stretch. Gotta stretch my legs. Oh boy. So, one thing I will say to expect with the channel, other than more Rumble content, expect potential future side stuff that isn't Rumble. Because after doing Stray and Monopoly, I really want to try again with the side stuff, the side project stuff, but at least like do better with it. And so my idea is to basically any of the games that I have planned but I haven't like practiced yet, I try to juggle and multitask. I would do a different game, a side project, to act as like, something for you to watch while I try and practice the next game that I have properly planned out. Other than that, the only other things you'll be expecting is for the channel, other than doing side project stuff, which all of it is in an attempt that, I'm getting older. I'm getting older. I mean, I'm not even in my 30s just yet, but I'm getting older and I'm realizing that I may not be able to like achieve all of this in time, which makes me a bit sad because there are a lot of games that I plan on doing and I really don't want to like never get the chance to fulfill them. So these next 12 games I got planned, a lot of them are going to mostly be on the PS3. There's at least one that will be on the PS1 because it's the only way I can play it. And there's even one that will be on the PS5. And I actually got to be thankful with this one because of how if it weren't for their decision to do it, if it weren't for their decision to do it, I may have never have thought about wanting to play it in the first place. I won't spoil for what the game is, but like I said, it's on PS4, PS5, and it's a legacy game of sorts. And it's like, oh wow, You've given me the means to play this game. It wasn't originally, I mean, it was on my list, but it was going to be much later on my list because it's like, am I ever going to get to do this? So there's that. And then um for upload schedule and all of that. So here's how it'll work. On Mondays and Tuesdays, 4:30 EST, will be oh, wait, was I right with the EST? Let me check real quick. Make sure I'm right about that. Yes, I was right. ET. Well, ET is but EST. So yeah, on Mondays and Tuesdays will be the Crash Team Rumble content. 4:30 EST. From Wednesday to Sunday will be whatever the main Let's Play will be. If I don't have a main Let's Play in progress because of how either I have to practice for it or whatever, it will instead be the side project. But from Wednesday to Sunday, same time, 4:30 EST, same thing. Same thing with the time. Now, if, and this will be an if, one thing, as some of you might know, is that anytime I completed some games, whenever, depending on the day I would complete them, they would then go up the next week on the next day of when I beat it. So if I finished a Let's Play on like a Thursday, the first part of the next game I have in mind would go up on next Friday. And if I were to do it on a Sunday, if I beat the game on a Sunday, it would go up on not the coming Wednesday, but the next Wednesday after. So I will pretty much also do that with side projects as well. Well, actually, no. No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, depending on with the main Let's Plays, depending on what day I beat them on and stuff like that, that's when I will then put side projects to again occupy the time until then. Is there anything else I wanted to bring up? Like, I'm sure you guys get what I'm saying, and if you've been around my channel long enough, you know how I tend to operate and how I tend to do things at this point. But I do have a lot of new faces, and that's actually the thing. Ever since I did Rumble, I've been getting a lot, and I do mean a lot of subs. And I understand if it's because you're in it to see my Rumble content, and it's appreciated, but just know that I do more than just Rumble. I'm gonna get back into it in a little bit, so I just need the time to get to it. Um, is there anything else I want to say other than what I've said already? I don't think there's really anything else I want to say at the moment, other than, thank you for watching. Thank you for if you've been around since, for the past 9 years I've been doing this, then that's some real dedication there. I've it's just been amazing on how I've been doing this for quite a while and I found a rhythm to it. And it's just nice to know that, there are people that do care about this stuff. Like the reason I did this at its earliest was mostly because I just felt like not a lot of people at the time were caring about like the older stuff, the legacy stuff that a lot of companies did. And even then, it's still the case, but it mostly just stemmed from I wanted to do what I like doing. Just wanted to do what I like doing a lot, and I just want to see this entropy die again. Oh, didn't die, but close though. A lot of things have changed during those few months, like some changes were discovered. Well, not so much as changes were discovered, but some things were discovered about myself. That is, I've discovered a few things about myself. Um, I made some, making some new friends here and there. It's all part of life. Just it's the whole shindig of life. Just don't know what to expect here and there. And if it's one thing that I know what I can expect is when the future of like not so much as my channel, but the future of these consoles, the PlayStation systems, the Nintendo systems and all that, I don't know what to expect. I just hope that whatever comes out, it'll be it'll be worthy for stuff to remember. Like a lot of interesting things have happened this year in the world of gaming. Like I don't even know where to begin. I don't know where to begin with all this interesting stuff we've had. Like, well, I mean, we've had the Mario movie, which I mean, I never did say if I saw it or not, but I did, and that was a great thing to watch. Like, I remember when they announced it at the earliest, which was around like when was that? That was like around 2014, 2015, and at that time, at the time, it was originally meant to be developed by Sony Animation and not like, Illumination. And honestly, Illumination was a good way to go because it's not on a it's not a studio that's directly competing with Nintendo. And the movie overall was it was a wonderful experience, like getting to see all the Easter eggs and sorry for that, my water bottle's tapping my headphones. And then, we've had the Uncharted movie, we've had the Last of Us TV show, which I mean, if it's not clear, I have played The Last of Us. I do plan on wanting to do it on my channel eventually. It'll still be a while until we get there. Um, what else? There's the Twisted Metal show, but I have not seen that. I don't have Peacock. I'd love to, I'd love to, but I don't have Peacock and I can't really afford to I just can't afford to potentially, you know, put more money into a subscription that I'm hardly going to use. Part of me is wondering if I should like maybe like give up Paramount Plus and then put on Peacock even if it would be just for a month or whatever just so that I can see Twisted Metal. Um and there's more fun stuff coming out for PlayStation's, shows and movies like I mean, there's the rumor with the Jack and Daxter movie. I've heard the rumors with that, and I know there's a God of War series based on the Norse games in development, which that would be fun to see based on how it turned out. Because that's also another thing. I never did talk about how I played God of War Ragnarok. That was such a wonderful experience. Who knows what we'll get in terms of movies and shows. What I do know, what I do know is that, with the strike going on, it's slowing down stuff. And I know there are people who are like, hey, those people need to, those people, Like all I could say is just like, oh, those people need to, those writers, they need to get paid and recognized for what they do, and all that sort of stuff. Man, I just like how relentless this Ripperoo player is on chasing me. Like, come on, dude. You were doing a good enough job just simply defending, blocking our bank, but you really had to go out of your way to chase me, all because. Um, I think that's about everything. It's about everything I want to share and say. So, um, thank you once again for watching the video. Thank you for being subscribed to me. It's again, it's really like it's really special that, I've been going at this for quite a while, and you'd think that, I've had people even tell me like, "Dude, you deserve more subs or whatever because you run a good channel." And I'm just like, I'd love to, but I'm now at a point where in my life where I'm just like, there's no point to it anymore. I'm just better off doing this as a hobby, but there's still time to maybe change. There's still time to change things and maybe, maybe possibly pull me through. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It just depends on whatever's in store for me. I just hope that whatever's in store for me will also apply to like my future in general because I feel like I don't have anywhere to go really in terms of like stuff with careers and whatever. Okay, not careers. I'm not that concerned about that sort of thing, but I'm just more concerned that I don't really seem to have anything going for me for the most part. Like, still live with my parents, which I find sad. It's sad but true. And I just wish that there's a way to get out of it because I just feel like I'm doing so much and yet there just seems to be no way out of it. But who knows? Maybe within a year or so there might be some change that can fix that. Alrighty. Well, I think I've said all I could said. I've given you the schedule, I've given you my thoughts on a lot of things, and yeah. So, that is it. And I will see you guys in the next one.